9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. Tonight on the show we have Elvis tribute act Rick Gaynor. We also have Rory Green on the show for the first time, trade unionist Andy Twelves and self-proclaimed anarchist, that's Dr. Lisa McKenzie. But first, let's go to the news.
Hello there, the latest headlines from the GB News Centre. And GB News can confirm that more than 1,000 migrants have now crossed the English Channel since Christmas Day, as hundreds more crossed today. It comes as the Home Office confirmed 407 arrived on Boxing Day. 451 made the illegal crossing on Christmas Day. On Friday, so far, 5 small boats have crossed from France with at least 200 migrants on board. They take the total number who've arrived in the UK this year to more than 36,000. It also marks another grim milestone of 150,000 small boat migrants since the crisis began in 2018. The Prime Minister has paid tribute to his brother Nick, who died on Boxing Day after suffering from cancer. Sir Keir said in a statement, "My brother Nick was a wonderful man. He met all the challenges life threw at him with courage and good humour." Downing Street has confirmed the Prime Minister has now cancelled his planned holiday to be with his family. The UK's national rail network is facing severe disruption as major engineering works, including for HS2, are prioritised over the coming days. Western services out of Paddington are particularly badly affected. To add to the misery, Avanti workers are preparing to stage a series of strikes over pay negotiations. Travel expert Simon Calder said the work was necessary.
The railways to start turning themselves around and stop taking £400 per second in taxpayer subsidy. They've got to attract new people in. And if you're one of these occasional travellers, and every time you look at it, it's Christmas or Easter or whatever, and there aren't any trains to your local station, just looking up here, I can see the Crewe is off limits today, as is Liverpool and Chester. You're going to think, well, I'm not going to bother. I'm going to get in the car, or indeed get one of the excellent long-distance bus services. But they say the work has to be done. It will improve the system, make it more resilient, and hopefully things will get rather better.
The Metropolitan Police has charged a man with 4 counts of attempted murder. It comes after 4 pedestrians were hit by a car in the West End of London on Christmas Day. Anthony Gilheeney has also been charged with causing serious injury by driving whilst disqualified and for the possession of a bladed weapon in a public place. One victim is still in hospital in a critical condition. Sources have told the Reuters news agency that Russia's air defences were responsible for downing a passenger plane that crashed in Kazakhstan, killing 38 people. The Azerbaijan Airlines plane crashed as it was diverting from an area of southern Russia, where Moscow has repeatedly used air defence systems against Ukrainian drones. Former Pentagon senior advisor Ann Daly says Russia must accept responsibility.
If Russia tries to deny this or cover this up, it could lead to a rift in Russian relations with Azerbaijan. If Russia doesn't apologize for what it's done and provide greater clarity in its airspace management, that could also lead to further degradation of relations between Russia and other countries.
The Ministry of Defence has lost hundreds of phones, laptops and other devices over the last 2 years, according to new government figures. A Glock pistol and 3 older guns, including a World War I era machine gun, also went missing. 744 electronic devices have been lost or stolen since the start of last year, including 260 phones and 314 laptops. And those are your latest headlines. We'll have more for you later.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. I'm Lee Anderson, Reform UK Member of Parliament for Ashfield. And joining me once again this week is Dr. Lisa McKenzie, a self-proclaimed anarchist. That's right, and he's back. Andy 12s. He's a, what are you, Andy?
Trade unionist.
A trade.
Local man, local
man. He's been a scaffolder. He's done all sorts. And you've been accusing our guest of being a WASPI woman.
I would never. I would say accused is a strong word. Accused is a strong word. I apologise on
I'm 68. I'm 68. I was born in 68.
You're not 68.
No, I was born in 68. That's a long way off from the 50s.
So we've just cleared that.
I apologise wholeheartedly.
Not a WASPI woman. But Lisa, I think every single frontbencher for the Labour Party at some stage in the run-up to the last election and the one before said that they would give the WASPI women their compensation, which was due, it's unfair, it's terrible, it's wicked, it's horrible. They deserve this money. And what have they done just a few weeks back?
Well, they've decided that there's a technicality, I think, in the Ombudsman's decision that they can get out of. That's what they've done. They've looked at the Ombudsman's decision and they've gone, right, how do we get out of this? So they've found this technicality, which is about when the women were first notified, and they've sort of technically got out of it but apologised, which is not justice, it's not fair, and actually, again, it's another hypocritical move, because it wasn't just the frontbenchers that have had photos took with the WASPI women, it was all the backbenchers as well. So they've all done it. They're all in this, every one of them.
Andy, you've got to come back and defend the Labour Party on this.
I think it's one of those things. It's easy in opposition to give support to any cause that does seem fairly legitimate. I think it is. The WASPI women probably should have been better informed, should have been better treated, but in government, realistically, you can't just throw about 10 billion. You can't just throw about 10 billion.
This is just another reason why people don't trust politicians. They promised one thing and done another.
Well, I don't think they ever promised to pay them out. I think. Well,
hang on. Angela Rayner going on the news and saying this is disgusting. We need justice for these women. If that's not a promise, then what is it? Because I know where I come from.
Come on, Andy. Try and show some more enthusiasm in your defence.
I struggle with this debate because I see both sides of it. I mean, they were probably mistreated and should have been informed better. But then also, how do you not financially plan your retirement? I look at it from both sides.
Excuse
and then also,
me, hang on. I've got to stop you.
You've got to look at it.
No, I've got to stop you here. How do you not plan your retirement? Do you know anything what happens to working class women?
Yeah.
Because what happens with working class women, especially what we do is we start work at 16, we have a family, we usually stop working for a bit to bring up our families, and then we go back to work again. We usually have to then start paying extra to our NI savings because we've missed a bit out if we want to get a pension. And then we, at the other end of our lives, we end up caring for our older family members as well. So actually sort of saying, prepare for women.
How are you not aware of it? How are you not aware?
Women earn less than men still. Imagine in the 50s and 60s, that massive gap between men and women's earnings. And then on top of that, we've now got a situation where they thought they were retiring at 60. Now it's 65. I mean, for the rest of us, it's 67. Surely that should be an issue that we should all coalesce around and say 67 for some workers is too old.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, we should be supporting any sort of elderly benefits, whether it's winter fuel or whether it's the WASPI women.
Well, this is the thing, Lisa,
we should be supporting
this
that.
This is the thing. They're picking on the pensioners, the Labour Party.
I don't think they're picking on the
well, they've stopped the winter fuel allowance, Andy, and now they've reneged on the deal to compensate the WASPI women. If that's not picking on pensioners, I don't know what is.
I mean, you could say that about any government, about any group, if you can link more than two decisions together. It's a silly piece of rhetoric.
When was the last government to rob pensioners like this? Who was it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Who was. But I mean, they're committed to the triple lock, so they're not robbing pensioners.
The triple lock.
They are committed to the triple lock. They are committed to the triple lock.
Triple lock.
I wish my salary was triple locked. I wish my benefit.
What do you wish your salary was 11.5 grand a year?
For doing nothing, yeah.
For doing excuse me?
Yeah.
Any pensioners in the room?
If I wasn't working, I want my salary to be 11 grand a year.
Get past that microphone to Ralph at the back there. This is
that.
Ralph. He's a pensioner. He reckons you're getting your state retired pension for nothing.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
You're a malingerer.
That's what I do. Alan Partridge. What's going on?
You're sounding like a Tory.
Let Ralph have a go. This is Ralph.
Yeah,
He doesn't look 70, but Ralph at the back, he's 70. He's done a shift. Oh, you a malingerer?
No. A lot of people might say different, but I worked at a company for 50 years and 3 months, retired 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
That was my third job. Apparently 35 years you get full state pension. I don't know what happened to the other years I've done.
Yeah.
I got no extra for that. And I'd like to say about the WASPI thing and the eating allowance. If they'd have done, like the heating allowance, if they'd at least said, you're going to get it this year, but next year you won't. You'd have had a chance to alter your budget, etc., to pay for your eating allowance, like they did with the women, the pensions. Never gave them any time to sort something out. Yeah. It was just done.
This is a real pension, Andy. Yeah. I think it's a bit harsh for you to say that they sat at home.
I didn't say that.
Well,
I didn't say
you
that.
said no. I'm going to.
You said.
Well,
what you said. You said if your salary were 11k, would you be happy? And if I wasn't working, I would be happy with 11k.
What if I wasn't doing anything? I'd be happy.
Well, if I wasn't working, I'd be happy with 11k.
But what you're not understanding, and I suppose this is a problem with younger people, is they don't realise that one day they will be a pensioner if they are lucky. You know, if we're lucky, we grow old. If we're not, we don't. And so by not supporting pensioner benefits now, what happens is when you need those benefits, they'll be gone. You should always look after and support pensioner benefits because we all need them one day.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree. But when it comes to WASPI women, you can't just throw 10 billion away. You can't.
Can I just ask you a question?
But Lisa, I'm just chipping.
Yeah.
Love, sorry. But we can chuck 11 billion on foreign climate aid to other countries. We can send hundreds of millions of pounds to farms in Africa.
I don't think we should be doing that.
We can do all that. It's all about its political choices.
I don't think we should be doing that.
It is political choices, and I come from this area. I come from Sutton in Ashfield, and I was grown up to respect older people for the service that they've given for the country. And I do think in the last, this government from July, they really have sort of denigrated the position of the older person. And I think it's partly to do with the housing crisis. It's partly to do with sort of setting up generations against each other. And it's also about sort of the culture wars as well. The elderly people have been dragged into the culture wars. I don't know how that has happened, but what we need to do is we've got to protect older people's benefits because it is something that we're all going to need. You know, I remember being a young person working, you know, down the road at the Pretty Polly when the pensions started to come in, private pensions, and I was like in my 20s and I was like, I don't need this, or this is not about. All of a sudden, I'm in a part of my life now where I'm thinking about this. So, you know, what I would say to younger people is one day you will need this. Protect it and protect the people.
So where do we stand on private pensions, and do you think it's a responsibility of people to take their own private pension out as well to top their income up?
I mean, it's personal choice, isn't it? Obviously, I'm not going to go tell people what to do with the money.
Yeah.
But again, that's very different, again, if you're a woman.
Yeah.
Because women work part-time, mostly part-time. They work in low-wage jobs. Sometimes they change jobs because of various family issues. So sometimes they don't always build that sort of private pension pot up. So that's why when it comes to state benefits for women, particularly, we have to protect those. And I just want to say as well, you know, in France a couple of years ago, when they were raising the French pension from 62 to 64, and all the trade unions in France came out against that because they knew something we obviously don't know, is that you have to protect pensioners' rights.
I think, you know, the way that the trade unions have the Trade Union Congress and the trade unions of the UK have allowed various benefits, not in the workplace and after the workplace, to kind of be denigrated. It is more a commentary on the lack of standard of trade unions in the UK.
Let's go back to a real pensioner. Let's go back to Ralph again. Ralph, do you feel valued as an old age pensioner?
No. Everything you seem to ask for, it's a no. So, no, you don't.
Okay.
Everything you want to apply for. If you haven't got enough money and you want to apply for something, you've really got to ridicule yourself to show you've got nothing. Yeah. You know, and belittle yourself just to get.
We don't treat pensioners very well in this country, do we, guys?
Well, we don't treat many groups very well.
We don't actually treat many people, and that and what you've just said about ridiculing yourself, I absolutely get that, because to ask for anything, because when everything is now means tested, you have to literally tell people that you know, the worst parts of your life where perhaps you're not coping or not struggling, you have to put that bare. Our benefit system is very cool.
It's like the winter fuel payment. The Labour Party are now saying, yeah, but you might get pension credits. Some people in the 80s and 90s having to apply for that's quite shameful. Andy, but we're going to leave it there, mate, because you're looking bewildered. You're looking.
I'm not. I did have a good.
You're looking browbeaten. I think Lisa's done you over on that one. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Coming up next, we're going back in the day.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Love a bit of baking and share some hot tips. We're delighted to be joined by our baking extraordinaire, Matty Edgell, who won Great British Bake Off last year. Woo! Welcome. Congratulations as well. I'm sure you're sick of being congratulated.
I know, it's a nice reminder.
No, you like all the glory.
Yeah.
What was it like winning the Great British Bake Off? What's last year been like for you?
Winning it was I was not expecting to win. At any point until they said my name.
You're a very humble guy.
Surprise. No, I was just
really
in touch with reality. Yeah, no, I wasn't.
Was it quite a close race throughout then?
Yeah, I considered myself the underdog throughout. I think the first week I turned around after the showstopper and kind of saw how good everyone was, and then looked at mine and thought, how have I got here? And that kind of theme followed through.
But then that surely like an underdog.
Yeah, it did.
Actually, I'm going to get better throughout this.
Yeah, I think it made me kind of like really tune into the feedback that they was giving me and trying to embed that throughout. So that's probably why.
Could you feel yourself improving as the series went on?
Definitely, and I think also like kind of simultaneously my confidence improved at the same time, and then that like little bit of belief in myself probably helped out as well.
What was your strength? Biscuits, cake, bread?
I think cake's my strength. I think cake, typically if you start baking, that's probably where you start, isn't it? So that was what I knew most.
How did you start baking?
I've been asked this so many times since...
You don't know.
I attribute it to my nan.
Sweet.
But yeah, I would say, I think most people probably attribute it to like a grandparent or something that they maybe done with like their parents when they was growing up. So that's I'll give it to my nan.
Or the major lockdown baking boom.
Yeah, banana bread.
Everybody,
all over the place, don't it? It's good.
Yeah, it's really good. I love a banana bread, even now.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive?
Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Lee Anderson's Real World. I've got Rory Green with me today. Thanks for coming, Rory.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you again, mate. Now, Rory does some really good work in his spare time. You run a mental health, a male mental health support group, and yeah, one of the things that drove you to this was your how can we say? Well, you had a brush with the dark side. Can we put it that way?
Or buckets of threes, as they call it, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It all basically started from just before the first lockdown. For those who don't know our story, my wife and I have been on a fertility journey, and there's a bit of a taboo with men and fertility. We don't like to talk about it. Yeah. We miraculously caught pregnant, and we sadly lost the baby just a couple of weeks before the first lockdown. And then tragically, my old man called me on the phone and informed me that my stepsister took her own life as well. So I went to a really dark place, as you alluded to. So yeah, that's a nutshell.
Tell me about the dark place, Rory.
Catastrophising your head, putting other people first, trying hard, but it just felt worse and worse. The pain, too much to bear, very mentally based. I was still with cognition, but just wanted pain to stop.
Because we know in this country, Rory, male suicide is the biggest killer of men under 50.
Correct, yeah.
About 15 men will die today. They will take their own life today, the same tomorrow, the same the day after. 75% of suicides in this country are men.
That's right.
Sadly. And the pain you talk about, it's not... Is it a physical pain?
It can vary for other people, yes. Yeah. But a lot of the men that my group go after are the men where they're trying, they're turning up to work, and you end up at their funeral and you wonder what the hell happened. And so it's just this despair, a sense of navigating through certain individualised sufferings, which we are all guaranteed in life. But I think my generation is the last crop of one you relate to, which is suck it up, get on with it.
Because you contacted me a few years ago now, didn't you? I think you reached out to me and we got in touch and we did a bit of work, and then sadly we had a mutual friend who lost his son, Graham. Yeah. He lost Sean 2 years ago at Christmas. Yeah. He was Sean, 30-year-old, big, good-looking lad. No problems that we could see. A decent job, money in the bank, great family, great support network, and sadly he just went home one night and he took his own life. I've done a bit of work with his dad and his family, and with you guys. Yeah. Enlighten the Shadows, raising money for you. Done a debate in Parliament to raise awareness of male suicide. But I think the big thing for you, Rory, in your support group is getting men to actually talk to each other.
Oh boy, exactly. We've got some amazing groups that are already up and running, but it's getting those men to the groups. There's fantastic charities across the country, like Andy's Man Club, have Monday night clubs. Ours are more tailored to hook men in, so one's a football kickabout with men that we've got a great partnership, Mansfield Town Football Club with the Community Trust, and then a great local pub that you're very familiar with.
The Dog House?
Yeah, they open up their doors on their closed days, and it's been phenomenal. They've been tens upon tens of men in the last 12 months alone admitting suicidal thoughts. We putting that support in place, following up, not making a big deal of it, but really hitting hard at the detail of what they're struggling with and just supporting them through it and getting on there.
So how do they reach out to you, Rory, these people?
It can vary in a plethora of ways. Do you know what I will say? Shout out to all the women and wives. I was just having a conversation earlier about this. Women are our greatest fan, and you have women that will be you have the nagginess, don't you? Which is, men sometimes jokingly say can be annoying, but it's a phenomenal attribute in a wife, in a mum, in an auntie, a grandmother, because it's getting men that support that they need. So women are probably one of the best ways. And then just through the work we're doing is we're regular guys who are just trying to make a difference. I think that helps. That makes men realise that we're not ultra clinical and over like white collared per se. We're quite relatable, I like to believe. So I think that helps, and we're different. I
think that myself and probably a couple of guys in the audience here are from a generation where it weren't really acceptable for a man to open his feelings up, cry, be emotional, and talk to people. But I think we've got to get around that somehow, aren't we? And to help save young men's lives.
Absolutely, I think there's a balance in it. I think crying is massive. It does help, and we're all different. So I'll probably cry more than you per se in a 5-year window. But I think stoicism, resilience, strength is a good thing. And once we build that trust and relationship with men, and we're alongside them, we then give them tools and strategies to get them back on the feet, so they're not just surviving.
But we see sometimes, Rory, so that some of the research I've done in Parliament is some young men who've wanted to be footballers or sportsmen. They've been through the journey from being 5-year-old to the academy, through whatever teams they go through. They get to 16, 17, and then they're dumped by these sports clubs. There's no like D-mob or aftercare. It's just like get off, and they can feel pretty useless, these young men can.
Well, I've had experience there. I've been at Peterborough United and Forest as a kid, and I was told, oh, you're too small. Can't change that. But times are getting better. Professional clubs are putting mental health support and coping mechanisms in that, but I still think the gap you're alluding to, we're trying to knock on door professional
I think they should have 2 career paths, shouldn't they?
Absolutely, because otherwise they're just a commodity rather than a human being. Clubs are getting there, but there needs to be more to be done.
It's trained for football, but if you fail, you can be a plumber or an electrician or a brickie or something like that. They should train them on 2 things, I think, at least.
Absolutely, and it can be a harsh reality when you put all your chips in one bucket and that's your be-all, end-all, and then you get the rug pulled under your feet and you go, what the hell am I meant to do for the rest of my life? And we see, sadly, tragically, there are young men who have took their own life because they see it as the only option. So
it's true, Roy. So obviously this goes out on a Friday night. Some people will be watching this right now. They might be thinking about a loved one in their family, especially a young male member. What do you say to them?
I think anything that you do, try to do, whether it's a subtle signpost, whether it's showing someone, Samaritans 116123, or our website, our social media, or like I say, Andy Mann's Club, if you are just trying, wonderful. If you are concerned about a change in behaviour, whether it's more or less of something, ask them. And if you think that they might be suicidal, there is unequivocal research that says if you confront it and say it, call the elephant in the room, say, I'm concerned about you. Are you having thoughts of, hurting yourself or even taking your own life? Ask them. And ask if they're all right, ask twice. There's massive positive ways of getting to the root of issues if you ask them twice. A lot of men, what we do is go, yeah, sound, I'm all right.
OK, Rory, thanks, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Round of applause, guys. I think that was excellent. Thanks, Rory, for all the wonderful work you do. But coming up next, we've got a fiery debate with that well-known trade unionist, Andy 12s, and that WASPI woman, she's back, Lisa McKenzie.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into this weekend, there's still going to be lots of cloud and murk around, also some drizzle, but likely to see some brighter skies by the time we reach Sunday. And where we're seeing those areas of more persistent rain and drizzle is just to the far northwest of the country, where we do have a frontal system. And elsewhere, we do have high pressure, bringing lots of settled conditions, but lots of cloud and moisture trapped underneath that high. And it remains fairly similar as we head into the overnight period. Still plenty of cloud around, a chance we could see some drizzle with more persistent areas of rain just to the far northwest of Scotland, slowly edging its way into western parts of Northern Ireland by the early hours of Saturday. And those cloudy skies means temperatures aren't going to change too much compared to what they were during the day, mostly in the mid-single figures. To start off the weekend then, across the northwest of Scotland, a damp start with outbreaks of rain, but to the very far north we may see some clearer spells, though we can't rule out some showers just moving in around coasts. And elsewhere across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, still plenty of cloud around, some outbreaks of rain and drizzle just to the west of Northern Ireland, and fairly similar across England and Wales too. Cloudy with some fog around, some plenty of grey skies around to start the weekend too, and still some drizzly outbreaks, particularly around hilly areas. And it remains fairly similar through much of the day, though those longer spells of rain just moving into the Scottish borders, northern parts of England towards the end of the day. And clearer to the north of this, may see some sunny spells here, but still plenty of showers moving in around coasts. And temperatures around the same, once again struggling under cloudier skies, so feeling chilly where you do see the grey skies. And then for Sunday, once again, still plenty of cloud around, but by the afternoon likely to see a few more sunnier spells, but still plenty of rain across Scotland and some quite strong winds here at times for the second half of the weekend too. But on the whole, likely the better day of the weekend for many, but turning unsettled as we head into the new year with strong winds and some heavy outbreaks of rain.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Lee Anderson's Real World. I've got Andy 12s, he's back, and Dr. Lisa Mackenzie, the self-proclaimed anarchist. Guys, we're from this neck of the woods, Mansfield, Ashfield. We've got a certain history, heritage and culture which I'm incredibly proud of. We might say things a little bit different here, but I think we've got big hearts. But I think, Lisa, that slowly but surely our sort of culture in this neck of the woods is being eradicated, being taken away from us, and sometimes we're criticised for it.
I agree. We are criticised, especially for our humour, because it can be quite coarse, and people don't always realise that we're being friendly when we're being funny. Yeah. I'm not sure that our culture is being eroded, not here, because whenever I'm in Ashfield with my family and all my old friends, it seems like nothing's changed for us. We still, we still have a laugh. We still are quite coarse. We still laugh at each other.
Yeah, but that's a family thing. That's a close family thing.
But I'm not sure. I feel that our culture is being lost. I think that it's being added to. And I don't see that as a bad thing. But no, I don't think our culture is being... I mean, obviously we have lost a lot in these areas. Yeah. You know, the culture of the coal mines and the factories, the things that we did around those, that has definitely gone. We have lost that.
I'm thinking more of the language you use, the humour. You said coarse humour. Sometimes it's coarse. Sometimes, especially now, Andy, we live in a social media age when we may say something around this table having a few pints, but if you put that on social media, you'd get cancelled, kicked off, and probably lose your job.
Yeah,
that's true.
I agree. I mean, I live in London now, and I've been
a posh part of London.
Well, it's an all right bit of London. We could be worse.
Not bad for a socialist.
Well, champagne and prosecco, I'd say. Okay, but I mean, it's London, so it's posh. But I've been back here this week for Christmas, and been out with a couple of friends that I used to work with, used to go to school with, and it's so refreshing to come back and, I'm able to be slightly blunt, a bit coarse, like you said, and you can actually you're not walking on eggshells like you would be in kind of corporate London. And I think this kind of, not HRification of the world, but where you've really got to watch everything just in case you offend someone. Yeah. I don't think that's helpful.
I have this argument sometimes, Lisa, with journalists in London. When I might say something if we sat having a drink and say, oh, you can't say that. I say, well, you know what? If you get out in the real world, in real places, this is exactly what people are saying. Yeah. Wake up.
Yeah, there's a brutal honesty in these places, and that's because of our history. And also, I suppose we trust each other a bit more as well. Because we know each other, or even if you don't know each other, you kind of know each other's background. So you can trust each other a bit more. You can perhaps push boundaries in these places. And I think you can be more honest. Yeah. Unfortunately, and I put this down to class and the class system, is the middle class don't get our humour. They don't understand that it's a bonding exercise, sort of, you know, being a bit cruel to each other, laughing at each other. They don't understand that that's a bonding exercise, and instead they pull us up and pick us up on it.
They do, and one of the things, Andy, where I spoke about losing our culture and our identity sometimes. My youngest son, Harry, he went to university, and he went away, obviously mixing with different people from all around the country. He's gone away 6 months, and he come back, and disaster had struck. He was a vegetarian. I mean, what's all that about?
I mean, I think it's a personal tragedy and a familial
It's a terrible
tragedy. I think it's awful, truly.
The first ever vegetarian in our family, by the way.
I know. We haven't got one of them.
Neither do we.
We don't have any of them.
But this is the thing, they go away to uni, they get their minds poisoned by all these lefties.
Eating lettuce when they come back.
Well, all sorts, stuff like that, yeah, I mean, lentils. I mean,
lentils? Oh, God.
Well,
but that's my point. I mean, I know I'm being a bit flippant, but they go away, they come back and they're different people.
I mean, you know, for reference, I don't think there is anything wrong with being a vegetarian. I know many working class vegetarians for many reasons.
Can't they have a bit of way for the same man?
Well, you know, I think
we
the royal family. Now that's where I would agree with you. So when we start to think about our culture, so you think about what working class people now are on the telly. So, you know, I'm thinking about the royal family, you know, the big sitcoms of the past, where working class laughter was absolutely in there. We have disappeared now.
And we also now, Andy, getting some of the old comedies from the 70s, The Rising Damps, The Dad's Armies and stuff like that. We're getting disclaimers on the screen before this may offend somebody.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. Offence is taken, not given.
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous, and it's a way of trying to erase the past. I mean, you know, sure, some of those jokes are somewhat insensitive, but that's what makes them funny. Yeah. That's the point of the comedy.
To who, though?
Well, you know, I think, you know, looking at Fawlty Towers, there were some insensitive jokes. If I was
have you ever watched a Carry On film?
Once, yes.
One? Is that it?
I'm not a big
Have you seen this? Have you heard this? One.
I speak to the crowd. I speak to the crowd here.
Honestly.
Well, no, I can't sit down and watch films.
Carry On films.
They're too long.
What's your favourite Carry On film?
Screaming.
Carry On Dick.
Carry On Screaming.
That's a good one.
It's frying
They're great,
tonight.
aren't they? They're great. Full of innuendos, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, and I think you've got a point because. You know, this again, I'm a working class academic and I look at this stuff because I think it's important. Working class people are not on public platforms anymore. You don't hear our humour, you don't hear our accents. We are, and if you do, we've been sort of silenced and quietened down, and you know, and this sort of general laughing and chit chat that we've had today, and really at your expense.
There's used to that.
And another place that we might be considered.
Yeah, but look at this area, Andy, that we live in. We've got all the old miners' welfares, the working men clubs. You know, got the Victoria Club up here, which is shut now, sadly. The welfares. But on a Saturday night, you'd get a comedian in there, you know, telling jokes to the miners, the factory workers.
And it would often be a miner who was then actually a comedian at night.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're not going to like this, but that's what Karl Marx said.
Yeah.
Karl Marx said that you could be a fisherman in the morning and an artist in the afternoon. And that's what we used to be here. Yeah. We did used to be able to, you know, do the hard work in the day and then at night be a musician or be a singer or a comedian.
See, I have to watch my language sometimes in Parliament because... You know, I was a coal miner for many, many years at Sutton Colliery and then Welbeck Colliery, and I think, we used to talk to people underground, not in a nasty way, but in a banter. It's like a dark humour, I suppose. Yeah. The nearest thing now is probably the armed forces, where they can still probably get away with a little bit of that. Yeah. But if you use that sort of language anywhere else, then they'd be cancelling you.
I tell you what,
corporate Britain, isn't it?
I tell you what, you should have been in the factories with the lasses then.
Well, I've got my mother here. She in factories.
I know, because I tell you what, if you ever heard them women in the factory when I was young.
Listen, I used to see them women on Friday break up at Christmas in the Portland Arms.
I know. I was one of them.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did.
I saw what they got up to.
I know.
But I think just building on Lisa's point about, you know, working class people in television, the fact that us three are here, all working class people, sat talking.
Yeah, but we won't get it on the BBC, Andy.
Well, this is the thing.
No,
you wouldn't get it on the BBC, you wouldn't get it on ITV, you wouldn't get it on Sky. The fact we're sat here with working class people, almost exclusively is something that's rare. You would have
very
seen
rare.
something like that.
It's terrible, isn't it?
40 years ago.
You can't
but
get working
now
class
you can.
people on the BBC, but you can get paedophiles. You got Jimmy Savile. You got dodgy.
Hugh Edwards.
Hugh Edwards. Well, not for a paedophile, but dodgy. Gary Glitter. He made his name on there. I mean, it's rife with this sort of behaviour. Yet normal working class people. Producer's going mad, by the way. He thinks he's going to cut this bit out, but he needs to leave it.
Doesn't represent the views of the channel.
But by the way, disclaimer: the BBC aren't here to defend him. I am not bothered because I don't pay my licence. But guys, this is a serious thing, really.
Well, I mean,
No, it is a serious.
Absolutely, it really is.
I know we're laughing, but actually, having no public representation is a big issue. It's a major, and that can be in politics, but also culture as well. When working class people all over the country see this show, they will be laughing along wherever they're from.
And we're making a point.
And they'll be laughing along with us. And it don't matter whether they're in Kent or whether they're, in Wales, they will understand this humour.
Yeah, and, we've got, a Reform MP, an anarchist trade unionist, these are all working class values.
That sounds like a joke.
I know, but on a serious note, a working class value isn't a left wing or a right thing. It's a class thing, and when we talk about diversity, it's often put down to gender or race, but socioeconomic diversity is never considered. And I think
So he's using big words now.
Now I'm with the academic. I'm bringing out the big words, but it is serious. We never have class diversity.
Lisa's been a working class lady. I've been a working class bloke. Well, whatever. And
cheers for solidarity.
But I know from working underground that the men I work with did an incredibly difficult job in difficult circumstances, hard work. I've got some ex-miners in here. My mate Andy's in there. He did 35 years down the pit. But they, these were socially conservative people. They loved Queen and country. They would sing the national anthem. They respected law and order. They wanted their kids to do well. They're aspirational. Wanted their kids to go to a good school. They believed in hard work pays. These are socially conservative values. These are, Andy, and something that regardless of what class you're from, these are tremendous values.
Yeah, and I would say that we do share a lot of those values with other working class people around the country and working class people who have got immigrant backgrounds as well, because some of we've got the same sort of values. I teach a lot of South Asian people at the university, and they've got very similar values to what I grew up with about family, about family, community. So I would say that our values are still there. Whether they're represented on a big stage or not is a different thing. And I think we should have a campaign about getting working class people.
I agree. Andy, what's the best thing about this area?
I think it's the community.
So why do you live in London then?
Well, the reason is because Thatcher stripped all the jobs.
OK, so you've done a runner. Lisa?
Well, it's true.
What's the best thing about this area? Do you know what? I like it.
He's still blaming Thatcher 40 years on, by the way.
Well, I am and all, but...
I think most of these people...
Do you know what I like about us? I like our history. I like our very, very complicated but fascinating history. I like our countryside is sort of been industrialised and now it's countryside again.
It is, we've got deer now on barley and badgers and foxes.
I know.
Guys, great discussion once again. Andy, always a pleasure. Lisa, a pleasure. But coming up next, we're going back in the day.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Millions are struggling to stay warm with the wet weather, the cost of living and, of course, cuts to fuel payments.
Yes, winter is fast approaching, so it's crucial to find cost-effective ways to save on your energy expenses whilst staying reasonably warm.
So joining us to provide advice on heating your home, or at least staying warm somehow, is one of the leading voices on lowering energy bills, Nick Miles. And you are very welcome in here this morning. I mean, a lot of people say, well, in the olden days, you just used to put on an extra jumper. But actually, it's more serious than that, isn't it? What is the best way, the most cost-effective way, to keep your home warm?
Some of the bigger things is we need to do more things on insulating our properties, but actually sometimes, it can be simple things like turning down a thermostat. Those that have got the luxury of being able to afford energy bills and keep their homes on the thermostat a bit too high, if you just turn it down by one simple degree, as long as you keep it between 18 and 22 degrees, can save up to 5 to 10% of your energy bill. So that's a kind of a very simple way of doing things. But, you know, it can be other little tips and tricks you can do as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I always get it when people say about this, but like 18 degrees is not warm for a house.
No, and it's twofold actually. It's that kind of relative temperature, but also it's the kind of drafts and things you have in your house. So it's the comfort factor. So what we have a lot of old properties in our country. You've got some 8 million hard-to-treat properties built before World War II that have got poor insulation, but also very, very drafty. So it's the temperature and it's the kind of the draftiness of them that kind of keeps us uncomfortable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
It's time for last orders at the bar. Not got a bell this week, but what I have got is a brilliant Rick Gaynor. Rick, thanks for joining me on my show.
Nice to see you, Lee.
We're in Ashfield, and Rick does a bit of a tribute act. I bet you can't guess who it is.
Elton John.
Thank you very much. Listen, Rick, I first saw you about 35 years ago in the Portland Arms down the road, which is no longer there. You were doing like a comedy show.
Yeah, well, it's nice to be back here in Huthwaite 35 years later, back by popular demand.
Popular demand?
Yeah, exactly, 35 years later.
It's not that popular. Well, listen, you know, just a few weeks back, a mutual colleague, friend of yours, he sadly passed away, Duncan Norvell. Now, you knew Duncan very well, didn't you?
Well, Lee, the first time I saw Duncan Norvell was, I think about 1986 at the Aquarius.
Same as me?
Yeah, and I was just starting my career out then, and I was actually doing an impression of Duncan Norvell back then. If you don't remember him, he used to go, "You're looking at me funny, aren't you? Come on, Lee, chase me." Went to chemist the other day, you know, Lee. Said, "I'd like to buy a jar of Vaseline." Said, "What's it for, cups?" I went, "No, chaps."
That'd probably get cancelled these days, wouldn't it, that? But no, he sadly passed away, as we know,
he did.
A few weeks back. And actually, when last time I saw him, he was in a wheelchair. He was really, really poorly. But you know what, Rick? Back in the day, he was one of the funniest men around,
It was
wasn't
brilliant. But actually, you know, even till only a couple of years ago, well, last year, he was still brilliant. I saw him at the Grand at Blackpool, standing ovation. And he was doing, like, jokes about himself, like you said, you're in a wheelchair, and he says, "They call me Spider-Man, not because I swing from building to building." He said, "They can't get me out at Bath."
Dear me. But look, how do you go from being a comedian, I know you've done a few pantomimes as well and stuff like that, to being an Elvis tribute act?
Well, again, years ago, I used to do a lot of singing impressions and lots of other impressions, a bit like Freddie Starr, my act.
Yeah.
And it was just like a natural sort of thing that I'd do Elvis as part of it, only a little segment. But then when I met my current wife, I call her that just to keep her on her toes.
Yeah, yeah.
She said, "Look, you've got to look at Elvis. Why don't you try and do Elvis?" So we entered this talent competition, just a couple of weeks' notice. I come second, didn't bloody win it though.
No.
Come second, but by that we decided we'll have a couple of years of doing this. 11 years later, still doing it, but we're loving it and we're selling out everywhere. It's
Still doing
really
it, still
good.
paying the bills. So what is it about Elvis then that all these years on, you know, nearly 50 years since he's been gone, people still want to listen to his songs?
Because he is the original and the best. Elvis would be 90 in January the 8th this year.
He was, yeah.
And Elvis came along 1955, 56, and he broke the mould, and that was it. And then everybody wanted to be like Elvis.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where, obviously, the Beatles, they loved Elvis. They absolutely adored him. Everybody loved Elvis.
But didn't Elvis copy off Shakin' Stevens?
Oh, yeah, of course he did.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I get that as well.
Do you
Go
do a bit
through
of shaky?
Green Door. No, I don't. But
Do you do a bit of shaky?
no, but they like...
I do like a bit of shaky, but, you know,
it's a good career being in entertainment, isn't it? But there must have been some nights, you know, along the road somewhere where you thought, wow, why do I do this? Why do I get on that stage? Do you get stage fright?
No, funny enough, no, I don't really get stage fright. It's like the anticipation of what's going to happen. I know exactly what I'm going to do, other than the comedy, because I do quite a bit of gags in it as well. I never know what I'm going to do with that. But no, I think most people that come to watch me are Elvis fans.
Yeah.
So they know what they're getting, and they're up for it, you know. Yeah. But it's different when you do weddings than that, when they're not all Elvis fans. It's a different beast.
Slightly different. And cruise ships, you've done that?
I've done cruise ships. I used to work for TUI, for Thomson Gold, doing all the gold hotels, travelling all over Europe. Before we had sat-navs, I'd be driving around with a map everywhere, all over the place. Yeah, I've done thousands.
So you're of a particular age, a certain age, not going to say what your age is.
42.
42 and a bit, and about 200 months. But, you know, back in the 80s, when we've got people like Duncan Norvell on the TV, we'd got some real big stars doing the variety stuff, the cabaret stuff sort of thing. You were sort of on the edge of that, weren't you? And it's sort of, probably if you'd been born a little bit earlier, you'd have been a megastar.
Just missed out. When I was doing all the Haven holiday camps, I was in a show called Rock with Laughter, and there was a young unknown comic as well, also up the road doing Rock with Laughter. His name was Bradley Walsh.
Bradley Walsh, yeah.
And then I used to be working with people like Shane Ritchie, Joe Pasquale, and they just broke into television. Brian Connolly, who used to nick most of my gags. They call him the thief of bad gags. Yeah. And so I'd be on stage at a lower level. He'd be going and doing my gags on telly. And so everybody would look at me saying, you're nicking Brian Connolly's act. Well, quite the opposite.
Well, that's quite smart of him, isn't it?
It's very smart of him, because he did all right, didn't he?
He did do all right.
With his septic peg and everything else. But then we're just breaking through. I had an audition for Talking Telephone Numbers with Philip Schofield.
You've got a bit of the old Schofield look about you.
Get off here!
Oh, yeah, you look a bit like him. Can that go out? Yeah, the producer says yes, that's fine.
Put some glasses on, you look like Greg Wallace. Can that go out?
Yeah, there's going to be a punch up here. This is not very festive, is it? No, carry on, Rick. Yeah, we'll leave that bit in as well. Listen, you know, young people now are getting into the entertainment industry. You know, no disrespect, but, you know, the ones that used to get in like yourself must have been a bit of a clown at school, messing about, doing the impressions, telling jokes, getting the old slipper or the cane a few times.
Well, I got expelled when I was 14.
Yeah, but that's nothing to be proud of, is it?
No, it's not. But you see, the teachers back then never encouraged you what you wanted to do. Yeah. You know, like they make you do biology and metalwork, for example. I mean, if you wanted...
Fancy that, eh?
Well, if
like reading and writing and stuff like that?
No, it's come in handy for me, because if you want a cat that needs welding, I'm perfect for that. but I ran away with fair when I was 14, And ever since, it's felt like my life's a merry-go-round.
Yeah.
Can we keep that one?
It's not very funny, but you can keep that one. But listen, sometimes at school, Rick, we have nerds, we have nuisances. I bet you're as in the old nuisance bracket, weren't you? But it's not done you any harm, has it?
It's not done me no harm. Listen, I was a bit of a rebel at school. I left school by the time I was 21. I was earning more money than headmaster, having been told I'll amount to note. So there you go.
35 years later, meet you again. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks, my friend.
It's been lovely to come here, and all that's left for me to say is thank you very much. I have a blue Christmas without you. I'll be so blue just thinking about you. Decorations of red on a green Christmas tree. Won't be the same, dear, if you're not here with me. And when those blue snowflakes start falling, that's when those blue memories start calling. You'll be doing all right on your Christmas of wine. Have a blue Christmas. I'll
have a blue Christmas for certain. That's when those blue memories start hurting. You'll be doing alright on your Christmas of wine, but have a blue Christmas. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas, everybody, wherever you are.
Thanks for joining me on Lee Anderson's Real World. Been another great show. Look, Happy New Year to everybody. Hope you all have a great New Year. But coming up next, we've got Friday Night Live.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into this weekend, there's still going to be lots of cloud and murk around, also some drizzle, but likely to see some brighter skies by the time we reach Sunday. And where we're seeing those areas of more persistent rain and drizzle is just to the far northwest of the country, where we do have a frontal system, and elsewhere we do have high pressure, bringing lots of settled conditions, but lots of cloud and moisture trapped underneath that high. And it remains fairly similar as we head into the overnight period. Still plenty of cloud around, a chance we could see some drizzle with more persistent areas of rain just to the far northwest of Scotland, slowly edging its way into western parts of Northern Ireland by the early hours of Saturday. And those cloudy skies means temperatures aren't going to change too much compared to what they were during the day, mostly in the mid-single figures. To start off the weekend then, across the northwest of Scotland, a damp start with outbreaks of rain, but to the very far north we may see some clearer spells, though we can't rule out some showers just moving in around coasts. And elsewhere across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, still plenty of cloud around, some outbreaks of rain and drizzle just to the west of Northern Ireland, and fairly similar across England and Wales too. Cloudy with some fog around, some plenty of grey skies around to start the weekend too, and still some drizzly outbreaks, particularly around hilly areas. And it remains fairly similar through much of the day, though those longer spells of rain just moving into the Scottish borders, northern parts of England towards the end of the day. And clearer to the north of this, may see some sunny spells here, but still plenty of showers moving in around coasts. And temperatures around the same, once again struggling under cloudier skies, so feeling chilly where you do see the grey skies. And then for Sunday, once again, still plenty of cloud around, but by the afternoon likely to see a few more sunnier spells, but still plenty of rain across Scotland and some quite strong winds here at times for the second half of the weekend too. But on the whole, likely the better day of the weekend for many, but turning unsettled as we head into the new year with strong winds and some heavy outbreaks of rain.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God. Amazing.
I'm in shock.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Patrick Christie's. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News. Britain's news channel.
Apparently, in the Mail, page 5, hard-pressed bosses already having to deal with deadlines, red tape and staff who won't actually come into the office over Christmas. And they're saying that Christmas parties this year are going to be as lame as ever because everyone's afraid of basically getting cancelled or misbehaving or getting sacked for their behaviour. Would you risk it, Trey, at Christmas?
Do you know, I've actually never had a normal job in my life, so I wouldn't last a second because I'm not very politically correct. But it must be horrendous, really, because rather than enjoying yourself, you're having to completely always censor yourself. And it might be the most innocent of stuff that's said to someone that they then take offence to, which means you're going to probably just keep your mouth shut, which doesn't sound like the best of parties, does it, really?
No. Tricky one, isn't it? Because you're not at work, so it's not an office issue if, you know, some banter and it's taken the wrong way. But still, it's still a work environment, isn't it?
Yeah. If HR shows up, it's a work party. It's a work event.
HR shows up, I'm gone.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. And so even for us this year, first of all, it's the first year we're calling it a holiday party. I don't know how I felt about
Really?
that.
What, your company's doing that?
Yeah, they're calling it a holiday party.
Oh, no, well, no.
Yeah, I know. I voted against.
So they got rid of the word
Christmas.
Why?
Because we want to be inclusive.
How's it not inclusive to call it Christmas?
I know. Trust me.
Are you still going to go? I wouldn't bother going. I'd say no.
I am going to go, but I'm going to go dressed as Mrs. Claus, and it's going to be Christmassy, and I'm going to make sure that Christmas enters the door with me.
Yeah, you spread that Christian vibe.
100%. But outside of that, there is that element of HR showing up, and HR will be sober, and they've already prepped them to say, like, listen, this isn't your party. HR can have their party. This is your hangout.
Yeah.
Make sure everyone's being PC.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly